Alrighty, y'all. Today's goal is going to be to solve two-step equations and explain the rationale behind a solution method. Basically what that means. Not only are you going to be able to solve the equation, but you need to be able to explain why. Why did I take this step? What was the thought process? What was the purpose behind solving it? Everybody go ahead and take 30 seconds. Pull out your Algebra 1 notebooks and make sure you're ready to go. You must have your Algebra 1 notebooks because if you take your notes anywhere else, you will lose points. Alright, so that was really only 20 seconds, but we're going to go ahead and move on anyways. First thing I want you to copy down is 3x minus 7 equals 11. Now, when I approach these problems, I'm going to start looking at them. And what I want to look at is what is being done to my x? Or what happened to x? Alright, so we're going to go ahead and take a look at this. Give me just a second so that I can shrink down the size of my pen a little bit. What happened to my x here? Well, I look at it and I say, the last thing that happened was I subtracted 7. I know it's the last thing that happened because it's the farthest away. So I look up here and I say, I subtracted 7. But I did something before that. And what did I do before I subtracted 7? So I look at my problem and I think and I think and I think and I say, well, I multiplied by 3. So now I know the two steps that I used to build my problem are multiply by 3 and then subtract 7. Remember, we talked about this last week. All solving an equation is undoing what's been done. Undoing. So if I am going to undo these two steps, I need to work them in the exact opposite direction. So I'm going to go ahead and clear everything out here. And I look at it and say the opposite of subtracting 7 is add 7. The opposite of multiply by 3 is divide by 3. Ladies and gentlemen, you just developed, or we just developed, a solution process. A solution method. So I'm going to start by adding 7 to both sides, and as all of the groups discovered last week, the reason we add 7 to both sides, not just one, is to make sure my equation stays balanced. So I end up with 3x equals 18 here. Then I come back up here, I've already divided by 3. Wow. Sometimes Kindle really screws up. Let's just back up a second. I've already added 7. Now I need to divide by 3. So I divide both sides by 3. The 3's cancel, or 3 divided by 3 is 1, and 1 times x is x. So I get x by itself, and 18 divided by 3 gives me 6. Ladies and gentlemen, I just solved it. Now, my rationale, why did I do it, has to do with inverse operations. And this concept of unbuilding or deconstructing an equation. That sounds complicated. It sounds really weird. It sounds like I'm literally just making words up, and you know what? I think I am. At least when I say stuff like unbuilding. But literally all we need to do, the only thing we need to focus on here is how do I take x, and I built up all this stuff around it. How do I get it back down to just x equals a number? Alright, this is really messy. I'm going to go ahead and clear out the slide. We're going to go ahead and move on to the next one. Next one says 6r plus 2 equals 14. Here's what I want you guys to do. I've been talking for a while. It looks like just about 5 minutes without a break. Excuse me. So what I want you guys to do is tell me, 2 things were done to my r. What were they? Step 1, step 2. In the problem, so right here in this equation, what 2 things were done to my r? Go ahead and pause the video for, let's call it 2 minutes. At the end of the 2 minutes, we'll come back. I'll show you what's done. Let's see if our answers match. Pause the video for me, please. All right, now that should have been plenty of time. Let's go through and see if what you have matches what I have. The first thing that had to be done to the r is it had to be multiplied by 6. I know it was done first because it's the closest to the r. I know the 2 was done last because it's the farthest from the r. So if this is my building, now I need to unbuild it. And when I unbuild it, I work in the opposite order. So 1 here links to 2 here. What's the opposite of adding 2? Well, I'm going to subtract 2. 2 here links to 1 up here. What's the opposite of multiplying by 6? You're right. I divide by 6 if I can get my pen to work here. So now I've got my unbuilding method or my solution method. Let's just implement it. Subtract 2 from both sides. Those 2's cancel. 6r equals 12. Divide by 6. Divide by 6. R equals 2. Ladies and gentlemen, this is really one of the easiest concepts we can cover all year. This is nothing compared to what we talked about last week when we were talking about why do I have to do it to both sides? Why do I use the inverse operation? Why does the 1 disappear in front of the r? Why do I get r by itself? This is straight procedures. Can I do it? And the answer for most of you already is yes. All right, guys, you should have gotten this all copied down, so we're going to go ahead and move on to the next problem. Next problem starts off with negative 3g minus 5 equals 11. One more time, I'm going to ask you guys, please pause it. This time, I want you to come up with what 2 steps do I need to build it? And what 2 steps will I use to unbuild it? Go ahead, you guys are going to work with, well, either Miss Anna or Miss Ramirez, depending on your class. Let's go ahead. I think I said 2 minutes. I don't think that's going to be long enough. I want you guys to take 4 minutes. Develop the build method, the unbuild method, or this what's being done to the G, and then your solution method. And I want you guys to take 2 minutes, 2 to 3 minutes after that, and compare answers. Let Miss Ramirez or Miss N walk you through it, and let's see if you guys can get to the same answer that I do. Go ahead and pause me, please, and unpause me when you're ready to move on. Okay, I'm assuming at this point you've had some time. So let's go ahead, and the build method, step 1 was multiply by 3 because it was the closest. Only, it's not multiply by 3, it's multiply by negative 3. And I'm going to put it in parentheses just to clarify. And then we subtract 5. So when I come down here and I do the opposite of the build method, the unbuild method or my solution method, I'm going to start down here. I'm going to do the opposite. The opposite of subtract is add. Add. And that number 5 stays the same. Then I come up here and number 2 is the opposite of number 1 on top. Opposite of multiply is divide. Divide. There we go. By negative 3. So now let's go ahead and see if we can just use this method real quick. So I add 5 to both sides. And I get negative 3g equals 16. I'm going to change colors to match. Divide by negative 3. Divide by negative 3. G equals negative 16 over 3. I'm going to give you guys a few seconds to catch up with me. Alright, couple quick things I want to note here. This right here, where I've been writing unbuild, that means solution method. What method am I going to use to find my solution? Second piece, if you look, this negative, or 16 divided by negative 3, it doesn't simplify. So we're going to keep it as an improper fraction. We like improper fractions because there's no room for a rounding error. But when you look down here, notice that that negative moved up on top. It's not really proper grammar in math to keep a negative on the bottom of a fraction, so we don't want to do it most of the time. Go ahead and make sure everyone's got this copied down, and then we're going to move on. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to go through this one really quickly because we're starting to run out of time. I'm not going to build my solution method first. I'm going to let you guys do that. 30 seconds starting now. Alright, hopefully you guys paused it because I didn't mention that, but if you didn't, you should go ahead and pause it now and then come back to me in a minute. But for those of you that are already ready, let's subtract 2 from both sides. Those 2's cancel out. I get 7f equals, my minuses are the same, so I add the numbers and get 13, keep the sign, divide by 7, divide by 7, f equals negative 13 over 7. Alright, let's go ahead and move on again. This time there are 3 problems on the board. What I want you guys to do, very important because the next slide is going to be a 5-problem quiz. 5-problem quiz coming up on the next slide. But what I want you guys to do right now, looking at the video, looking at the board, go ahead, pause the slide, we'll call it 5 minutes. Pause the slide, take 5 minutes, finish off whatever needs to be done. Pause the slide, 5 minutes, work through this problem, make sure, make sure everyone understands them. When you come back, we're going to go ahead and start our quiz. Alright guys, now that you're back, this is a simple 5-question quiz. Please do it on a half sheet of paper. One more time, this is a simple 5-question quiz. Please do it on a half sheet of paper. It is due at the end of this rotation. Make sure your name is on it. Most of the time I get these half sheets of paper back, they don't have any names, and I end up having to throw most of them away. You do not want a 0 on this. It should be easy points. Make sure your name is on it. This is a pop quiz due at the end of the group. Once you are done, hand it in to either Miss Ramirez or Miss N. They'll collect it and get it back to me whenever I return. Thank you very much. Sorry, go ahead and pause the video for me. And when you guys are ready to rotate groups, go ahead and press play again. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, it is time to rotate. So, ladies and gentlemen, go ahead and pack up your stuff and rotate.